Sometimes we look around at other guitarists and are just baffled at how they are getting so much better than us so quickly. It can be downright frustrating because it feels like they are leaving us in the dust and we are stuck on the same old plateau that we've been on for years. Although it's easy to assume these people are more talented than us, it really boils down to how and what we practice. In this lesson, I'll show you 5 core principles of guitar practice that I've taught in thousands of guitar lessons over the years that will help you blow past your plateaus and start sounding like you're making the music you've always dreamed of. The first of these 5 core skills is time, also known as rhythm. As guitar players, we hear the word rhythm and we often think only about chords, but rhythm is everywhere in music. We forget that rhythm is actually when the note starts, when the note ends, and how long it lasts in between. Many of us learn how to read rhythms in standard notation, but learning to feel rhythm is much more important. First, you want to hear it. Actively listen to recordings. Find drum loops on the internet and pay attention to what the drummer is doing. I highly recommend learning to count out loud. Several years ago, a famous YouTuber named Adam Neely made a great video about counting out loud. It really truly helps you lock in with the rhythmic language much more vividly. I did this and was blown away by how effective it is. So when you listen to tracks, try counting out loud like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There's lots going on, but that quarter note pulse is the most important. In this bluesy, kind of D-bluesy funk track, listen for the kick, listen for the snare, the cymbals, and the underlying groove. Now you can actually download this track and a lesson summary from the link in the description below. Once you can hear, feel, and count the rhythm, the next step is actually to play the rhythm. But here's your challenge. When you start moving your hands in time, you might notice that, your mind kind of becomes distorted and your rhythm gets all messed up. This is why we want to kind of consistently stay rhythm-centric, because in reality, no choice in music is as simple as once your hands start moving around, right? Everything gets much more complicated right away. So my recommendation for getting your hands moving is to start with the drumitar. I learned this from the great John Damian from Berklee School of Music. Here is the drumitar. So you just mute with your fretting hand, and you start playing those quarter notes. Okay, so that's our count, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now I'm playing individual strings right now, but what if we played multiple strings? That's actually gonna change my rhythm a little bit, right? I have to move more space. Okay, so that's my 1, 2, 3, 4. How about some 8s? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And again, single notes, single strings. Trying to lock into the groove. You're gonna be amazed at how much this helps. Triplets. 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a... Count it your own way. 1 tita, 2 tita, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. Okay. Doesn't matter how you decide to count it, but just get in there with the groove. 16ths. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. So once you're feeling the groove in this way, you can start practicing scales, chords, or arpeggio. But my challenge to you is to give yourself rhythmic limitations. I frequently challenge students to play only specific note values, like say eighth notes, 2, 3, 4. So that's the D minor pentatonic over this funky track, just playing in eighth notes. What about in triplets? Or maybe 16ths? Mistakes are welcome. We're trying to be creative. There's another rhythmic exercise that I absolutely love called targeted rhythms. This one kind of involves allowing yourself to only play on specific beats within the track. So for example, I might force myself to play only on beat 2 like this. 3, 4, 1, 4, 1, 1. And I'm counting in my head. I might count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So doing improvisation-based exercises like this that target exact rhythms will improve your improvisation and your connection to the groove. Now for the second core skill, and I hate to burst your bubble because I am as guilty as anyone else. Many players go down the path of gas, also known as gear acquisition syndrome. One of those guitarists was a student of mine several years ago, and he was a great student. He practiced a lot, and he followed many of the things that I suggested to him. But during one particular lesson, he was playing the $6,000 PRS into a $5,000 two-rock amplifier. He had this fancy pedal board, and I remember thinking, why does this guy sound so bad? He would play and every note just like died immediately after he played it. Then I had a realization. I said to him, can you try something for me? Try hitting the string much lighter. Relax your fretting hand touch, and when you strike the string with the pick, play it much lighter. And to my amazement, suddenly he sounded like he was actually playing the guitar. This is a core principle, and it's principle number 2. Tone and touch. These things are deeply connected. I commonly hear intermediate guitarists pressing too hard, bending the strings out of tune by pushing them into the wood too hard. That kills any of your sustain. So I actually developed a really effective exercise to help with that over pressing. And it's pretty simple. It's called the light touch exercise. You need to practice this with each finger, index, middle, ring, pinky, and probably at some point on each string as well. But let's just do one at a time right now. So to start, let's just choose a string. I'll choose the 3rd string, the G. And for now, let's go to the 5th fret with our pointer finger, okay? What you are going to do is press the string very lightly, just enough to mute it so that it doesn't ring, okay? And then you pluck it. And my recommendation is to pluck it kind of every half second or so. And then you're going to keep pressing in your fretting hand down a little bit more and a little bit more until you finally get a clean note that doesn't buzz. That moment is the exact amount of pressure that you need to play a great sounding note on the guitar. Right after the buzz leaves. You can kind of play around by relaxing a little bit. I guarantee that it is drastically less pressure than you would normally use. That is the light touch exercise. And if you play lightly with your fretting hand, you will play, more lightly in your picking hand as well. But that being said, you do need to pay attention to how hard you're picking over here and making sure that you're not slamming the string, because that causes a chaotic vibration for the string. The string just bangs against the frets, and no matter how expensive your guitar rig is, it will sound bad. So do this exercise and stop buying more guitars and start playing with a lighter touch. Before we go to core principle number 3, I want to quickly introduce the sponsor of today's video, my full course Creative Solo System. Creative Solo System brings all of the skills I am talking about today together in one place. The course includes only the most musical exercises, licks, lines, and concepts that take you from sounding scaly and boring to creative and confident in your solos. You get step-by-step lessons and interactive tabs to help you quickly build real musical confidence. As a thank you for watching this video, I am giving $100 off of the course to the first 20 people who sign up today. Now back to the lesson. The third core skill we need to improve quickly is learning to use our ears. And within that, learning the musical language that we love. When teachers talk about improving as a musician, they often tell students to listen a lot. And I agree completely. But what I experienced as a guitar student and what I see in my students is that we often think we need to listen to 1,000 different things to get better. The problem with that approach is that we never dig deeply enough into one thing to truly absorb the musical language. So instead of listening to 1,000 different songs, choose between 1 and 3 songs or solos or riffs or whatever it is that inspires you. And instead of listening to 1,000 things once, listen to one of those things 1,000 times. When I was in grad school at the University of New Orleans for jazz guitar, I wanted to get better at jazz, but I was just struggling. One thing that improved my jazz blues playing dramatically was listening to Miles Davis's solo on Freddie Freeloader, and at least 1,000 times. Ever since then, my blues playing at that tempo and with that approach has been exponentially better because I absorbed the language just from listening. The pacing, the rhythms, the phrasing. The best part about living in 2025 and 2026 is that we have tools to slow down music and repeat parts easily. But guitarists often spend too much time perfecting scales and exercises and not enough time learning the language of music by listening deeply and picking out what they hear on the guitar. And let me be clear, this is hard at first, and that is okay. If you cannot pick things out by ear at first, neither could I. What I did was I isolated small sections, I listened to them many times as possible, and then I picked out notes piece by piece on the neck. I also recommend writing it down. It doesn't need to be standard notation. You could use tab or even write it in some kind of caveman style that makes sense to you. No big deal. Start learning things by ear as soon as possible. And this transitions beautifully into the fourth skill that we need to make massive progress and get off that plateau. This is where we take the things we have listened to, the things we have learned, and we put a name to them. Many people use a term that scares guitar players of all levels. What is that term? Music theory. But music theory is simply the name of a sound we want to play, such as dominant 7, minor 7, minor pentatonic. This doesn't need to be scary. It is just the name of a chord, the name of a scale, or the name of an arpeggio that you're using. What I want to challenge you to do is create this understanding of music theory in your mind and on the fretboard. Connect your fretboard knowledge with your theory, your chords, your scales, and your arpeggios. To build fretboard knowledge, I highly recommend learning the natural notes first, and as you learn theory, you will understand those notes from the key of C. You say them and play them on one string at a time every day. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Ascending and descending, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. All the strings every day. Then learn the other major scales and apply them across the fretboard using the 5 shapes method. One of the best things that I ever did was write out the notes on the fretboard daily. Write out diagrams of arpeggios you're learning, any chord shapes, any scales. Connect them. And then finally connect the number system with your note names on the fretboard. If you do this a little bit every day, it will grow a lot more comfortable and you'll be fluid in the language of music theory. Anytime you learn something new, see if you can say the notes out loud as you slowly play through it. Connect the sounds of the music to the names. The final core skill that is absolutely necessary if you want to grow your guitar skills quickly is becoming your own guitar coach. I have a coaching program called the Inner Circle, and my goal with that program is to get students to the level where they can coach themselves and don't need me anymore. But how do we do that? One way is to learn how to effectively and actively listen, like we talked about earlier, but not just listening back to recordings of the greats. You have to record yourself and listen back constructively. You kind of ask yourself, what's working, what's not working? How are your note choices? Are you using the right scale over the progression? How are your chords sounding? When you transition chords, do they sound clunky or awkward? What's going on there? Record audio of yourself and analyze it. Or even better, film yourself with your smartphone or tablet and look at what is happening with your technique. What is working? What is not? Make notes in your practice journal so that you can improve and remember what you're doing and working on tomorrow. A great friend of mine calls this getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. It is awkward, annoying, and even anxiety-provoking to listen to yourself play. It is not fun, but you have to take that medicine. Take your vitamins. Trust me on that. Be willing to record yourself and listen back with a constructive ear. Celebrate the positive things and be honest and realistic about what needs to improve. Don't beat yourself up. If you learn how to coach yourself, you will be unstoppable. The sky is the limit. The journey really never ends, and that is the best part of learning music. You might reach a very high level, but you never stop growing because there is always more to learn. Now that you know 5 core skills to maximize your practice, make sure to watch this video next to learn the top 5 exercises for guitarists that actually work.